Hey everybody, welcome to Off the Shelf Board Game Reviews. This is a tabletop gaming hobby over here on YouTube dedicated to the tabletop gaming hobby. And this is a series of videos looking at the game of Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition. Now, Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition, I'll just call it Terraforming Mars for the rest of the video series, is an action selection and an engine building game for 1 to 4 players. It plays about 60 minutes. It's a card game where players are going to play competing competitively to be a corporation that's trying to terraform the planet Mars. Whichever player's corporation can terraform Mars the best is going to be the grand winner of the game. Now, this video itself is part of a series of videos looking at the game of Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition. In this video, I'm actually going to show you some sample gameplay for the game, showing a 2-player game between the red player and the blue player, so you can see how the game plays. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a tutorial while it's going to be a full gameplay, so I'm going to take things nice and slow, explain to you how the actions work, why they're working, and everything along those lines. But if you actually want to get a full tutorial, just see a quick overview of what the game is, or see a review of the game, check out the other videos in the series. And additionally, if you're a supporter of the channel over on Patreon, you can see a video where I'm going to film a full video where I'm going to play the game solo. Using the solo rules, I'll teach the solo game, then I'll go through a full solo game. But that's for the Patreon backers over on patreon.com/OTSBGR. Come on back after the break for a playthrough of a 2-player game of Terraforming Mars. Now, of course, I'm going to be playing this game as a 2-player game right here, and unfortunately, there might be potential mistakes I might make when I'm playing the game. And the reason why they may crop up is it's a little bit challenging to play 2 different sides and try to sound a little bit entertaining while I'm talking to a camera and try and talk things back and forth. So I might occasionally forget to do things. I may occasionally forget to raise up the terraforming rating when I'm doing other actions because I'm talking about a lot of things going on. Or the big thing is I actually may forget to flip these cardboard tokens over here. And the main reason why I'm going to forget to do these is because when I play Terraforming Mars, I don't use these cardboard tokens at all. The cards are more than enough of a reminder for me on how to play the game, because I've been playing a game called Race for the Galaxy for so many years. And this game has a lot of pedigree and a lot of genetics from the game of Race for the Galaxy. So it's not something I really need. So if I forget to do it, I'm not forgetting the rules. It's just something I don't really do when I play the game. I'm basically only going to be doing this on camera. When I play this game with my friends, we don't even use these cardboard tokens in the least little bit. Now, I do have the game set up for a 2-player game right now. It's going to be between the red player and the blue player. And we're going to start this pretty much right from the beginning, so I can explain to you exactly how the game works. Again, while this is a playthrough, it's also a little bit of an explanation without being a long, drawn-out full tutorial video. I know a lot of people, some people learn by watching gameplay, and some people learn best just by being taught how to play the game. That's why I do these series of videos, so you can kind of find the a la carte that helps you figure out if this is going to be a game for you and your gaming group. So at the beginning of the game, the first thing we need to do is we need to set the player board where every single player is going to start at a terraforming rating of 5, and that's going to be abbreviated as TR on a lot of cards. So I'll go back and forth between calling it TR and terraforming rating. It just means the exact same thing when we're playing the game. The blue player has all the resources set to 0. The red player has all the resources set to 0. We have our 5 action cards selected for both of our players. Nobody starts with any resources. The first thing we need to do is we need to get a hand of 8 cards. Now I'm going to show you how to play the game with the full rules, not the beginner rules, which tells you to start with some basic cards. When I teach you how to play the game, I'm going to include that in the actual tutorial. But once you play the game a couple times, you're never going to use those introductory rules, and I want this video to be much more encompassing. So I'm going to use the full review rules for the game, which also includes the advanced rules, which allows me to discard my hand of cards. Not only that, I'm going to play the blue player as more of an open hand, or I'm going to play the red player more as a proper hand where I'm not going to show you what's going on. What I mean by that is I'm going to discuss the actions the blue player is taking. That way you can kind of see the interactions of the game, see the interactions of the cards, and kind of understand why some of these decisions are made to kind of help you get the flow and the feel for the game itself. So the very first thing we need to do is after every single player has their player board set up and ready to go, and we have our oceans and all the oxygen and heat level set back in the basic level of the pink, in the purple, and every single player starts with a terraforming rating of number 5. We're basically ready to start the game. The only thing we need to do is each one of our players needs to get a stack of 8 cards, and these are going to be the project cards. Now the project cards are going to be the basic cards our players are using to go ahead and terraform the planet Mars. We're going to be using these cards to do things such as gain production. We're going to get these cards to do actions. These are going to be one-time events. Basically, all these cards are going to give us different things. The green cards are going to be basically for production. The blue cards are going to be more for actions that we get during the action phases, and the red cards are going to be more for one-time events that we can use. That's the basic flow. That's not 100% flow, but it gives you an idea of exactly how the game plays. But at the start of the game, every one of our players needs to get a stack of 8 cards. And every single player gets a chance to look at these 8 cards, and every player is going to get a stack of 2 corporations. Of those corporations, you're going to pick one of those 2 corporations. And not only that, after you pick the 2 corporations, you get the chance to discard as many cards as you want from your hand and deal your hand back up to 8 cards. Now, the reason why you may want to do that is, of course, some cards in a game like this has well over 200 cards. Some cards are better at the early phase of the game, some cards are better at the middle phase of the game, and some cards are just better at the late phases of the game. And that's why you want to make sure you're looking at your hand, make sure you're picking cards that are good for the early phases of the game, and make sure that you're picking cards that are actually going to help you play a better game. So we have each of our hands of our cards for our players. We're going to take the red cards players, put them over here to the side, and we'll take the blue players cards, and we're going to put these cards face up. And we're going to go ahead and pick our corporation here for our blue player also. Again, normally when you play this game, you are not going to play with your cards face up, but I'm trying to make this as interactive as possible so you can kind of understand the flow, the way the game plays, and understand exactly how this game works. So this is going to be the blue player's hand, and these are going to be the 2 corporations for our blue player. Here are the 2 corporations for our red player. The red player needs to figure out what corporations they're going to pick. The rest of these cards are going to be removed from the game. They will not be used at all. So let's go and look at our blue player, figure out which 2 corporations we have. We have Credicore and we have the Arclight Corporation. Now, every one of these corporations is going to show a starting amount of money that each one of these corporations starts with. And some of these corporations are also going to have special powers, where those are abilities that are going to trigger when certain events happen, or there might be one-time abilities or long-term abilities or various different things. It's basically going to give us a little bit of a boost and kind of may influence the strategies we may want to take as we're playing the game. Some corporations are really good at starting with a large sum of cash, which gives you lots of options, but they don't have a lot of benefits and a lot of spiffs. Some corporations starts with an extremely low amount of income in cash, but they have lots of spiffs and lots of benefits. And if you're really good at playing the game, sometimes having those benefits can be much more influential and much better than having that starting cash. So right out of the gate with our blue player, we need to make a really good decision, and we actually have 2 really good corporations that are actually really good. Unfortunately, not both these corporations are actually good with our starting hand. So let's go and look at the 2 corporations that we actually start with. The first corporation we're going to start is going to be the corporation called Credicore. Now, Credicore allows you to start with 48 million credits, and every time you play a card that costs 20 million credits or more, it's going to cost 4 million credits less. Then there's a corporation of Arclight, which starts with 43 million credits. Not too bad. And every time we get 2 animals on this card, it's going to give us an extra victory point in the game. So on the surface, these actually sound like both really fantastic cards, but only one of these cards is actually better for our starting hand. If we go ahead and look at our starting hand, we see that we have 3 cards in our hand that actually have a cost of 20 million credits or more. And then we don't have any cards in our hand that actually allow us to do any form of animal production. Now, that's the interesting thing about Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition. Actually, the game of Terraforming Mars or any card games, card drafting games like this. A lot of the strategy of these kind of games is knowing the good combinations that you start with, realizing how many cards on the deck, and kind of hedging your bets and trying to figure out how long it's going to take to get an engine rolling. Because with a lot of these engine building games, the idea is to be the first one to get your engine rolling. Usually the person who gets their engine rolling first is going to be the one who usually win the game. So the game usually begins immediately right from your first drawn hand of cards. You need to look at what you have, figure out what is the highest potential starting engine of some kind, stick with that engine, know when it's not a good time to stick with that engine, or when it's time to break free from the engine, or just keep bullishly pulling forward with that engine because that engine's starting to pull forward for you. And remember, in the game of Terraforming Mars, this game is going to play until all 3 ratings have reached their max level, which basically means we flipped all 9 of the ocean tiles over. We managed to reach the highest level on the oxygen level, and we managed to reach the highest level on the heat level. On the phase of the round that happens on, that's going to be the final phase of the game. Once that's done, we're going to add up all the victory points. We're adding our terraforming rating, any bonus victory points for anything we happen to have through our cards, and maybe any force we have, and that's going to be the total victory points you have. Whereas the most victory points is going to be the grand winner of the game. So thinking about all those things that we have, looking at the 2 corporations we have, and then finally looking at our starting hand of cards, I think for us, the actual best corporation for us is Credicore. Now, the reason why I'm picking Credicore on this and why I think it's the best corporation for our blue player to start from is we have these 3 cards right here, which will all cost 4 million credits less thanks to Credit Core. And these cards actually feed off of each other pretty darn well. Because we see this card right here that we can get in play, which is going to allow us to produce heat. Heat is something we need to start getting terraforming rating. Not as important to our strategy, but we see that these 2 cards actually work together fantastically. This card costs 27 million credits, and if we're with Credit Core, that means it's only going to cost 23 million credits. If we play a production card, we're going to drop the price down another 3 million credits, so this is going to be a 20 million credit card to play. Once we play this card, it's going to allow us to put this card into play for 6 million credits less, plus an additional 4 million credits less because of the corporation we're playing. We see that just getting these couple of cards in our hand, thanks to our corporation, are going to be an immense discount for us. And in early games, having immense discounts is the same thing as having a really high production. And your money production in the game is very, very low. Your money production is equal to your current production plus your terraforming rating, which means we're all making 5 million credits. I can show right here that I'm almost tripling that amount just in discounts. I mean, that's a pretty good start for us. So I think with a blue player, we're going to pick those cards. Now, the thing I need to figure out is how many of these cards do I actually want to keep and how many of these cards do I want to get rid of? Well, it's always good to have at least 1 action card. Let's look at all the actions we have. This one requires a moon or a couple planets to be on your cards for effects. I only see this card itself, so I'm not going to hedge my bets and hoping to get any more of those cards. This card right here requires an oxygen level to be in the red or higher. It's many turns before that's going to happen, so it's not an early game card. Best point right now is going to use it as just a cash infusion. This one allows us to put microbes on this card, and as an action, we remove an animal or microbe from one of our cards to gain 3 plants. That can be nice. That can give us kind of an engine building. So that's kind of a nice one to keep back right now. And then we see this card right here allows us to reduce the cost of all our production, because the amount of production we have on this symbol and all these cards is going to give us extra income. Extra income also makes cards less expensive in a roundabout way. I guess that's a bad way to say it. We're basically getting more income. It's a good thing to have. But this requires to have a lot of these cards with this symbol on it right now. We see that only 1 other card has that symbol, so this card is only going to be income of 1 plus 1 victory point. 15 million credits for an income of 1 victory point. Not that great early in the game. It could be, but I am actually going to get rid of that one. Then we'll go ahead and look at Mars University. It says when you play any one of these symbol cards right here, including this card itself, you may discard a card if that card has a plant symbol on it, draw 2 cards, otherwise draw 1 card. Well, this could be a good way for us to get a card engine going, and it's not too bad. It doesn't cost a lot of money, but I don't see any other cards. Let's see here. I don't see any other cards in my hand with the plant symbol. So it isn't really going to help itself. I'm kind of hoping that something's going to feed off of it. And again, when you're playing Terraforming Mars, hoping is not a good strategy. You basically want to work with what you got and hedge your bets, because it's usually the best way to play the game. So replacement card is going to be matter generator, of course, the symbol that I just said I was not going to get another one of. Artificial jungle, which allows me to draw cards. That could be good, but I have to sacrifice plants to do so. Remember, those plants, you need 8 of them to start making the forest to raise up the oxygen level. And the final one I'm going to get is solar power, which is victory points and heat generation. Looking at my hand of cards, I have a potential of 4 heat generation already. That's a pretty darn decent hand of cards. This is the hand of cards we started with. The red player has already picked their starting corporation and their starting hand of 8 cards. Their corporation that they're going to start with is going to be the Terraforming Corporation. So I'm going to start with 51 million credits, plus they're going to get a discount on any card that has the Earth planet symbol on it, which is nice for them. Let's go ahead and set up our player boards and start the first round. Now, the game of Terraforming Mars Area Expedition is going to play out over rounds, and every single round is broken down into 5 phases. And this is a engine building and an action selection game, because at the start of every single round, the players are going to look at their hand of cards. Now, this hand of cards is going to give them various different actions, such as action development, which allows them to play green cards, adaptive construction, which allows you to play red and blue cards, the active action, which allows you to take the basic actions on every player's board, plus the actions of any blue cards you manage to get into play, the action of production, which allows you to gain resources based on your current production and your terraforming rating, and finally the action of research. Now, the action of research allows you to draw cards, and of course, every one of these cards has a nice little bonus on it if you're the one who actually plays the card. Because an interesting thing about this game, much like Race for the Galaxy or a much older game of San Juan, every single round is only going to have a certain amount of phases in it based on the phases chosen by our players. So all of our players are secretly going to look at their hand of cards of their action cards, which is kept separate from their hand of action cards that are called their project cards. So when you look at your hand of action cards, every single player is going to look at the hand of action cards. They're going to pick one action, they're going to place it face down. Once all the players have played all their one singular action cards face down, all the players are going to reveal their action cards. And the action cards that are played are the only actions that are going to be performed on this round. So for example, both of our players played different actions. For example, if the red player played their action as action 3, and the blue player played their action as action 1 development, that means this round and this round only, we're going to play out action 1, and we'll remind ourselves by flipping that over. And we're going to play out action 3 this round, and we'll flip that over to remind us that that's going to be the actions this round. The actions of 2, 4, and 5 are not going to be performed this round at all, because only the actions that are selected by our players are going to occur. The interesting thing about this, though, is that all the players are going to take these actions. That means that blue and red are both going to develop. Blue and red are also going to use the action card. The interesting thing, though, is that if you're the one who actually played the card, and in this case, blue played this card, we know because there's blue highlights on the uniform. Red played this action card, we know it's because the red highlights on the uniform. But because the blue player played this card, they're going to get a special bonus only for them, even though both of our players get the action. And then the red player is going to get this bonus down here on the card, even though both of our players get to do the action itself. And then after we do all the available actions for all of our players, this round's going to end by doing a little bit of cleanup, and then we're going to go on to the next round. In the next round, we're going to pick another action card. The trick here is we cannot pick the action card that's already been selected. So you cannot use the same action card multiple actions in a row. So let's say this player plays this action card, and then the red player is going to play this action card. Once both our players, or I should say all the players, because the game does play up to 4 players, once all the players have selected their action card, they will take the previous round's action card back into their hand, and now it's available for them to pick on future rounds. So both of our players will do this, and then we're going to go ahead and reveal the action cards. Now the interesting thing is players can pick the same action card, and that does mean that both of our players are going to do the action, but that also means that both the players get the bonus. Because remember, if you pick the action, you also get the bonus. This just means that in this 2-player game, that in this round and this round only, we're only going to have phase 2. Phase 1, 3, 4, and 5 are not going to occur. So the simple thing here is at the beginning of every round, we're simply going to pick our action, then the actions are going to occur. We're going to do a little bit of cleanup, and we're going to end the round. We're just going to keep doing this again until the terraforming ratings, until the oxygen levels get maxed out, until the heat levels get maxed out, until all the ocean tiles have been revealed. Whichever phase that occurs in is going to be the final phase of the game. We're going to add up our scores. Victory points are going to be based on total terraforming rating, bonuses we get for plants, and any bonuses for cards that we manage to get played that give us possible victory point bonuses. Whoever has the most victory points is going to be the grand winner of the game. That's a simple flow of the game. So now that you understand how the game plays, let's go ahead and start the very first round between both of our players, who are going to each select their action cards. Now, like I said, I'm going to be playing the blue player as more of an open hand, so you can see exactly how the game plays. The red player is going to be playing their hand as a closed hand, so you can see how the game really plays when people are playing the game of Terraforming Mars. So at the start of the round, we're going to start with our planning step, and we're going to do the planning steps for both our blue players and our red player. But again, we're playing that blue player as an open hand, just for all of you to see how this works. So at the beginning of the round, we have a kind of a game of chicken when it comes to the very first round of the game, especially in a 2-player game. This is not as prevalent in a 3 and a 4-player game, but definitely in a 2-player game, this is very prevalent, because it's a very good opening move for at least one person to do the developed strategy. So you kind of have to do this kind of a little bit of a chicken game when you're playing a 2-player game. Do you want to look across the table and assume if the person across from you is going to do the develop action? Because it's always good to get as many actions as you can, because the more efficient you are with your action economy, obviously the more things you do. And if you played board games before, you know that the more times you do stuff, the more stuff you get victory points for, the more chances you can get to win a game. So it's kind of a game of chicken when you get to a 2-player game. So if I were to play a develop action, and the person across from me also plays a develop action, I'm not going to get as efficient as a turn as I could possibly be, especially if I have cards in my hand. For example, if I have construction cards I really want to build, and I do have a construction card I really want to build, because I want to add cards to my hand. Because the nice thing about your hand of production cards, as long as production cards are in your hand, they're worth money. Every single card can be discarded anytime during any phase, any part of the game for 3 million credits. Even during the final round where we're trying to do things to get various different resources, anytime you can discard any number of cards for 3 million credits per card. So I have this card right here, which is going to allow me to draw cards. You can never have more than 10 cards in your hand at the end of a round. If you have more than 10 cards in your hand at the end of the round, you're forced to discard down to 10. But again, anytime you're discarding cards for any reason at all in the game, and all cards in this game are always discarded face down, so nobody knows what cards you're discarding. But anytime you discard a card, you're going to get 3 million credits for it. So having more cards in hand not only gives you more options of choices on your turn, It also gives you the million of credits to even get the cards into play. So getting more cards is a fantastic thing. So I actually want to get this blue card in play as quickly as possible, because not only is it going to give me immediately 2 cards, it's also going to give me the ability to draw more cards, which is always a very, very good thing. So playing that little game of chicken, do I want to look across the table at my opponent and assume that they're going to do a develop phase, because a develop is a generally a pretty good opening move in the very first round of the game, especially when you're playing the basic rules, because everybody has at least 1 develop card, and it's a good idea to get 1 develop card in play, because that's how you're going to start getting resources. So we're going to play a little game of chicken and hope that our opponent across the table is going to play a develop card. Of course, we're going to play our card face down, because we don't want our opponent to know which phase we're selecting. So then the red player is going to play their card, and now that both of our players have played and picked their action card for this round, we have a red player over here and a blue player over here for a planning step. Once we've done that, it's time to reveal for both of our players. So for our planning phase, we see that the red player has chosen development, and for the blue player, we've chosen construction, which means that the red player, when they do their development, they're going to get a discount of 3 million credits. Both of our players get to develop. So let's go ahead and reveal that tile token up here, just as a nice friendly reminder. And both of our players are going to get the construction step. The difference is that our blue player gets 1 bonus. They're either going to draw a card before or after they play their development or their construction, or they can play 2 constructions this turn, which is something we may want to consider. So now we reveal what our actions are. We're going to go ahead and move on to the resolve phase step. We're going to resolve the phases that we've chosen. Let's go and start with the develop phase right here, and then the red player gets to decide exactly which card they want to play. The very first card that they are going to play is they're going to play Balanced Portfolios. Now, anytime you play a card in this game, any resources that are listed in this red and orange kind of sliced, not sliced, but slanted color lines of orange, red, it's kind of this orangish, reddish color line right here. Anytime you see any resource in that box, and that box only, is a permanent raise in your income. Any other places where you see resources on are just a temporary game. They don't raise your actual income, they just give you that resource. So for example, we reveal ocean tiles. Let's say ocean tile shows 2 plants. It's not going to raise your production, it just literally just gives you 2 plants. The only thing that ever raises your production in this game is a card that has a resource listed in this little orange box. No orange box, no production game. It's just a temporary 1 piece or 2 piece or whatever of that specific resource. So we want to get this card in play, and to get this card in play, it's going to cost us 8 million space bucks. I'm going to call them space bucks just because it's funner for me to do that. Calling them mega credits or millions of credits is going to get really confusing very, very quickly. So I am going to get a discount of 3 million credits or mega space bucks in this one, because it's only normally going to cost me 8 credits to get this into play. But since I played the develop card, it's going to be a 3 million credit discount. I could even discard a card right now, which could bring it down to 2, or I can discard 2 cards and bring it down to -1. Since you can never go in negative, you're just going to get the difference back as change for you, because you never lose by discarding cards. If you overpay by discarding cards, you always get the extra money back. So we're not going to do that. We're just going to spend the basic 5 million space bucks, and now we have this card in play. Now, unfortunately, this card does have one additional requirement, that we have to spend 1 of our terraforming ratings. That's permanently going to lower our terraforming rating until we raise it through other resources. But the nice bonus is we're now going to get 3 on our permanent income as long as we have this card in play. And we plan on keeping it in play for quite a while. And the nice thing is this card is also worth 1 victory point at the end of the game. Kind of a nice bonus, so it takes away our terraforming rating, but we're still going to get that victory point in the end, so it's not that big of a loss. So now we go over to our blue player, who has their whole hand of cards and everything they want to spend money on right now. And I think we are going to put a green card into play. Now, we could not do this if we wanted to, but I think we know what our basic strategy is going to be, and I think getting some of these cards into play right now would be a very good idea. Now, we do have quite a bit of money. We have 48,000 space bucks, so we can spend 10,000 space bucks to get this into play, which is going to give us 1 victory point at the end of the game. And it's also going to increase our production of heat by 1 point. Not necessarily a bad thing. Now, I could discard cards to bring that cost down, but I really don't think I want to do this, because I kind of have a plan with the cards that are in my hand right now. And I know I'm going to start gaining a lot of cards really quickly that start helping me recoup my loss and my cost. So I'm not stressing it too much. We'll spend the 10 million credits. We'll discard the 10 million credits. We now brought that card into play. And the nice thing is, you don't have to play a card for a phase if you don't want to. You just have that option when you play that phase itself. So both of our players have played their development cards. The development phase is over. Let's just flip this over as a nice gentle reminder. Now let's go on to construction. Now both of our players get to do the construction, but the blue player gets the bonus, so they're either going to draw an extra card before or after they play their blue card, or they get the option of playing 2 blue cards. Both those actually sound really, really good to me, but let's go and look at our hand of cards and see if that's exactly what we want to do. The blue player for their turn is going to look at their hand of cards, and we are going to do a construction. Now again, we do have the option of either playing 2 construction cards this turn, which means a blue or a red card if we like, or we can play 2 blues, 2 reds, whatever we want to do, but that's the option as a construction. Or before we can do that, instead of doing that as our bonus action, we can draw a card before we play or after. We're going to draw a card before because we actually want to reduce the cost. We're not even really worried about what this card is, but we are going to worry about it just in case it does change our strategies. And looking at it, this one says reveal cards from the top of the deck until you reveal a building project card. Place in your hand, discard the rest. When you play a building project card, you pay 4 million credits less. Well, if I keep this card in my hand, I can see that all building project cards are going to cost 4 million credits less. I have 1 card in my hand that fits that criteria right now, and unfortunately it's the card I'm going to play right now when I can't get this card into play anyways quite yet. So I think I'm actually going to discard this. Now, it may not be the best decision, but I think it's a decision I'm going to pick right now because I want to bring down the cost of bringing in this card. So we're going to discard this card. Remember, all discarded cards are always discarded face down. You have to put your discard pile a little bit off to the side. You don't confuse it from your draw pile because nobody can ever see which cards you're discarding because that's part of the strategy. You just never know if the card you really need is in the draw pile or if it's in that discard pile. So instead I discard a card, just to show you how the mechanics work, I would technically get 3 million credits, and I put them on my board over here for discarding a card. And then I'm going to put this blue card into play right here. So we have this blue card into play. It's going to cost 13 million credits. I'll spend the 13 million credits right here and right now to get that card into play. And when I do this, it says lightning bolt, which means that effect is going to go off the moment that card is put into play. It's going to tell me to draw 2 cards. So I'll draw 1 card, and I will draw a second card, and I'm going to get the research card. Ooh, this is actually fantastic because this research card right here will feed in very, very nicely to a card I have that actually requires me to have lots of white cards in play, if I remember correctly. Thought I had a card that required it. Maybe, may not. But this one's going to allow me to draw cards, and getting more cards in my hand is always good because cards allow you to save money on buying things. So we have 2, 4, 6, 8 cards back in our hand. We basically have the amount of cards we have at the start of the game. That is it for us. We are not going to play any more cards. Let's go and set our hand back down right here. And then we just need to go to the cleanup phase part of this round. So during the end phase step, basically every single player needs to look at their hand of cards. If they have more than 10 cards, they discard down to 10. Every card they get is worth 3 million credits. We see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for red, and we know blue has 8 because I just counted all the cards just a second ago. But before we do that, let's back up because I actually forgot for the red player to take their turn because they actually wanted to do a construction step, so I apologize there. They are going to put in the extended resources card, which is what they wanted to put in play, which is going to cost them 10 million credits. They don't get any extra bonuses because they did not play the construction card. Let's get that card into play, and this basically gives us a bonus anytime we do the round or the phase 5 action of drawing cards. It's going to allow us to draw more cards, which is always a very, very nice bonus. Now we go back to the end phase. We're going to make sure we have no more than 10 cards, and then this is when we would reset these tokens. I'm going to try to do them as I go through them because otherwise I will absolutely forget, because as a person who's played Race for the Galaxy for many, many years, I find these extremely superfluous. I'm going to forget to do them if I don't do it the other way. So that's the only reason why I'm not doing it during the end step when you're supposed to. It's just because I know I'm going to forget to do it. But that's the end of the first round of the game. You see how fast the rounds go. Let's go ahead and go on to round 2. And all our players need to pick their action for this round. Now remember, the blue player cannot pick construction this turn. The red player cannot pick development, so they need to pick different actions for our turn. So looking at all the cards we have and knowing what we want to do on our turn, I am going to go ahead and play this card for the blue player. And then the red player needs to figure out exactly what action they want to perform on their turn. So the red player looks at their hand of action cards. They need to figure out exactly what they think the blue player is going to do, and also know what they can't do anymore and figure out what they have in their hand of production cards, and then they're going to go ahead and play this action card right now. Now that both of our players have picked their action cards, we can go ahead and take our action cards back into our hands, and they'll be available for us on the next round to choose from. Then let's go ahead and reveal for both our players. So we look like we have a little bit of flip-flop going on here, and this can actually happen. That's why I'm showing how the things can happen as you play out the game. So we see that blue is going to pick develop, which means they get the discount. Red is going to pick construction, which means they're going to get the bonus discount itself. So let's go and reveal the tiles here, showing what we're going to have. as a nice gentle reminder for everything we're going to do. So both our players got to do the develop phase. Let's go ahead and do the develop for the red player first. And the red player was originally going to do something, but now that they see that develop is actually open for them, they're going to change what they're doing just a little bit, and they're going to play a different card into play right now really quick here. So they're going to play this card into play right now. This one's going to cost them 13 million credits. And what this one is going to do is during the production phase, their production is going to go up by 1 million credit for every one of these symbols that they have in play. This will be 3 symbols. We're going to spend 13 million space bucks to increase our income by another 3, meaning that we have a really good income engine going for us very well right now. So I could discard some cards to help me with the cost. I don't want to do that because I'm actually liking a lot of the cards I have in my hand right now. So we need to spend 13 million credits to do this. We'll discard a 10 and a 5 and take 2 back. That is it for the production for the red player. Now we get to go over to the green player who actually has a lot of cards in her hand. Now we are going to do a production card, which means we are going to be putting a green card into play, which means we're basically looking at this card right here, and we are looking at this card right here. Now this card, if we get into play first, is going to give us a discount on this card right here. Don't forget, anytime we play cards with this or with a cost of 20 or higher, we're going to get a nice natural discount on the card to get it in play anyways, because of the corporation we actually have in place. That's a nice bonus for us. So we want to put this one in play first, even though it's cheaper than this one, because by putting this one in play, this one's going to cost us a heck of a lot less for us. So we'll put this back in our hand of cards. This is the card we're going to put into play. And this one's going to cost us 27 minus 3 for the development card we played, bring us down to 24 million credits, minus another 4 million credits for the corporation we play. So that means we're going to spend 20 million credits for this card. I could discard some additional cards to get this card into play, but I don't think I want to do that because there's a lot of cards in my hand that I'm actually liking right now. So we'll put this card into play, and what this is going to do is now we're going to draw a card for each one of these purple lightning bolts that we already have in play, including this one. So we have 1, 2, 3 purple lightning bolts. We're going to draw 1, 2, 3 cards by adding this card into our tableau as an available card for us. So that's 1 bonus already. And then we're going to increase this track right here by 2, meaning that in the future, any cards we play that have this symbol on them right here are going to cost 6 million credits less. So that card I showed you a moment ago right here, they cost 21. It now costs 15 minus 4 is actually going to cost us 11 million credits. So we're helping our economy engine work very well here. So this is actually a great thing for us, and that's a good card for us to get into play. Sure, we may have burned a lot of cash to get to this point, but we've got a lot of cash potential in the future for us. So that looks really good for us. So both of our players have done our development phase. Let's go ahead and end the development phase, and let's go ahead and move over to the construction phase for both of our players. For the construction phase, we'll go and start with the red player. Now the red player is going to actually play 2 cards this turn instead of taking the bonus of playing 1 extra card. So the very first card they are going to play is they're going to play a card called Wood Burning Stoves. Now Wood Burning Stoves is a blue card. It's going to cost 13 million space bucks for us to play. So we'll go ahead and discard the 13 million space bucks right down there. And this is going to give us a bonus of gaining 4 plants. So let's go ahead and add 4 plants to our board. And again, since this is 4 plants, it's not listed in orange, it's not production, it's just 4 plants that are given to us for us to spend. It's not increasing our production. Next thing it says is, as an action, we spend 4 plants to raise the temperature, unless we actually chose the action phase. Then we only need to spend 3 plants to raise the temperature. So it could be a way for us to raise the temperature right easily next round, raising the terraforming rating, which also is going to increase our income. That's the first card we are going to play. Next card we're going to play is, let me make a little bit of room, and I'm going to play a red card down. I'm going to play the atmosphere filtering. This requires to have at least 2 cards, or at least 2 of these symbols right here in play. Luckily we see that we have 3 of them, so we're going to meet that requirement right here right now, so it's not a big deal. We're going to spend 6 million credits to get that into play. We'll take 4 million credits back as our change. And then this is going to allow us to raise the oxygen level 1 step. So let's go ahead and raise the oxygen level 1 step. And that's going to give us 1 terraforming rating for the red player. Bring us back up to 5, making up for the lost 1 terraforming rating we lost earlier. We're back to ground zero. We already have a really good economic engine built. And we have a couple different benefits, and things are looking pretty darn good right now for the red player. That's it for the construction phase. Let's go over to the blue player for the construction phase. And for the construction phase, they are going to play a card called Research. Now, Research is going to cost them 5 million space bucks. Can go ahead and make just a little bit of room here so it makes it nice and easy to track what's going on right now. We'll spend the 5 million space bucks right here and right now, and that's going to allow us to draw 2 more cards. Now we have a pretty large hand of cards right now. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we will have to draw or discard 1 card, which is going to give us 3 million space bucks at the end of the round when we go to the end step here at the end of the round. Let's go and look at some of the cards we have right now. We have Steelworks, which allows us to gain heat and credits. We have the Blueprints, which allow us to get cards and money. This may be a great card for us to get and play very quickly because we do not have very much of very good monetary engine going on right now. This one is going to give us money plus, or let me see here. When you play any cards with a purple lightning bolt, you may pay 4 million credits less for it, and you draw a card. Well, do I have any more lightning bolt cards in my hand? I do not, so I think this is probably going to be the card I'm going to discard. See, we have spend 1 plant to draw a card. We have microbes. We have the artificial lake, the giant asteroid, the astro farm, which we know we're not getting rid of, heat production, plant production, and cards for every, if we have at least 3 of these symbols, and we will have it. So we're going to keep these cards. Let's just go ahead and get rid of this card right now because that is allowed in the rules. Remember, at any time you can get rid of any card you want for 3 million space bucks. You don't have to wait till the cleanup phase if you do not want to, and it's just simpler for me to remember to do it right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cards. We're perfectly legal. We played a card. We paid for it. That's it for both of our players. We have taken care of the construction phase, and those are all the phases for this round. Now we just simply go to the end of round phase where we need to do any cleanup, fixing these tiles, discarding down to 10 cards. Guess what? Round 2 is now over. Let's go ahead and go to round number 3. So both of our players are having individual problems that they need to take care of very, very quickly. The blue player has very much a strong lack of money right now. The red player is kind of in the same boat, but they actually have a good income engine, so they're not worried about it. They're not pushing for that production phase because they can still play cards right now. The problem is they don't have cards to play. The red player is down to 3 cards in her hand, not a lot of choices, while the blue player is down to 10 cards in her hand, lots of choices, but just no way to play those cards at all. So again, part of the mind game of playing games like this is trying to get in the mind of your opponent and trying to think about, okay, what is my opponent across the table for me going to do? Blue can look at red and say, you don't have a lot of cards in your hand. I'm willing to bet you're going to do phase number 5. The red player can look over at blue and say, well, you have a lot of cards in your hand. You just need money, so you're probably going to do a produce phase. So that's kind of the mind games you can play when you're playing a game like this. But let's go ahead and just pick our cards for both of our players. There is the action card for the blue player. Here is the action card for the red player. Both of our players have played their action cards down. Let's go and return the old cards to our hands. And let's go ahead and figure out which cards we are going to take on this turn. Well, that's pretty obvious since I already said what we were going to do. We're going to have a phase 5 and we are going to have a phase 4. So let's go and do the phase 4 for both of our players. We'll go ahead and start with the one who actually played the card. So our income is going to be based on our current production of money plus our current terraforming rating. Now, somehow I knocked the terraforming ratings over. This is one of the negatives about the board. They put all the effort into these player boards that have recessed dual layered when it's very easy to recalculate your production instead of putting it into the board where it really matters, the terraforming rating board, where this definitely should have been recessed. So if anybody bumps these tokens, you know where your terraforming rating happened to be. Luckily, I remember that we were all at 5 on our terraforming rating, so it's very easy to recalculate that. But that's one of the negatives I do have with the production of this game. So back to what we were doing here. We are going to get 5 million credits, plus we have no income extra on that, so it's 5 million credits. But since we played the production card, we're going to get a bonus of 4 million credits. 5 plus 4 is 9. I'm going to discard a 1, and I'm just going to take a 10 for easier math. Next thing we're going to get is we have no card income. We have an income of 1 heat. We have that because this card we got in play in the very first round. We have no plant production, and these two things are not productions. They are just discounts on future cards we may put into play. So now that we figured out production over here, let's go ahead and go over to the red player. Red player has 6 million credits, plus their terraform rating of 5 is going to give them an income of 11 space bucks. We have no card income, no heat income, and we have no plant income. So we're basically done. We get to go ahead and move on to the research phase. Now we go ahead and do the research phase for the red player because the red player has a very, very nice bonus thanks to this card that they have in play right here. Now I'll slide this over so you can read along with me. It says, when you keep cards during the research phase, you may keep 1 additional card. So normally what you do on the research phase is if you didn't play the research card, you will draw 2 cards and keep 1. This will allow me to draw 2 cards and keep 2. But since I played the bonus card, I'm going to draw 5 cards, and I'm going to keep 3 of them only because I have this card in play. So let's go ahead and take care of the red player first. We're going to draw 5 cards. And let's just be fancy and draw 1 from the other pile. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards. We're going to look at these 5 cards, and I'm going to take 2 of them and discard them face down so nobody gets to see them. And then the rest of the cards I am going to keep. So let's quickly look at these cards and figure out which ones we're going to do, and we'll go ahead and go over to the blue player. Now the blue player has quite a quandary going on right here because they're going to draw 2 cards, and normally they would discard 1 card. Unfortunately, we are already at 10 cards in our hand, so it doesn't matter what we get here. Unless either one of these cards is better than the current 10 cards we have in our plans we have in our hand, we pretty much need to discard both of these cards. The nice bonus is that we are going to get 3 million space bucks back. So what we have here is we have standard technology. You pay 4 million credits less for standard actions that cost millions of credits. That means that this will go down to 16, this will go down to 11, this will also go down to 11, which actually is not that bad of a card. And it does have that white symbol for us. Now we don't need that white symbol. Do we want to actually? These feed off of each other pretty darn well. No, this one we can't get into play yet. Let me look at my hand. Now I'm contemplating if I want to change out my strategy. That could be worth it. Do I want to do that? Kill 4 heat, plants, cards. Cards, giant asteroids. Well. I think I am going to do something here. I'm going to change up what I was thinking. I think I'm going to change what I was doing. I was starting to think along a process line, but I think I may not do it. Money income is something that's very hard for us right now. That's where we are actually very much lagging behind me. Very much. So we will follow what we had to do before. We drew these 2 cards. One of these we must discard because of the research action. We are going to discard standard technology. I know I'm going to kick myself later for discarding it, but I'm going to discard it anyways. I know it's not the best choice. This card will now go in my hand, and now we will go to the end of the round. So we would flip this over. We will flip this over, and then we need to discard down to 10 cards since we have 11 cards in our hand. I'm going to look at my hand of cards, and I'm going to discard 1 card. I'm going to discard the Steelworks card. Again, I know I'm going to regret that later, but Gene Repair kind of fits with some of the other cards we have in our hand and some of the cards we've already managed to produce. So I'm going to go ahead and see if this is a good decision, especially since this is going to increase our income, which is something we are severely lacking on right now in this stage of the game. So that's it for this round. We now need to go to the next round for both our players, and both our players need to figure out exactly what they want to do for their actions. So we know that we cannot produce as the blue player. We know that we have about 15 million credits. We do know that we have a card we want to put in play, which is the development card. So we are going to play the development card right now. Then we are going to look over at the red player who's going to look at all the cards in their hand and figure out exactly what they want to do. They have a couple strategies and a couple tactics, and they are going to do that, which means they are going to play this card down here right now. Both of our players have picked their actions for this round. We will go ahead and take back our extra action cards. Let's go ahead and reveal for both our players, and we are going to get a develop and a construction action. So reveal the tokens or the tiles, reminding us which actions are going to occur this turn, and we'll start with develop with the blue player since they played the card. They're going to do the develop action, and they're going to pick the Astro Farm right here. Now, normally, Astro Farm would cost 21 million credits. This would normally cost, like I said, 21 million credits, but we have a discount of minus 4 million credits, so this is only going to cost us 17 million credits. Not quite as low as we need to go. Luckily, we're going to subtract another 3 million credits from the price because we play the development card. So now we're down to 14 million credits. Well, this has this symbol right here, and remember, anytime we have this symbol, we're going to subtract another 6 from the price because of this, what we have right here. So this is going to go all the way from 21 million credits down to 8 million credits because the discounts of 6, 10, 13 minus 21 is 8 million credits. So we're going to spend 8 million credits to get Astro Farm into play, which is actually a pretty darn good price for us. This is going to do a couple different things. One is going to increase our plant production by 1. It's going to increase our heat production by 3, bring us up to a total heat production of 4 for us, which means now we can start flipping some of these tiles for us, which is a really darn good thing, which is something we've been lacking. So now over to the red player. Red player needs to figure out if they actually want to play a green card this round, because they want to play a red card, which actually costs a little bit of money, and they don't have enough money to play the green card in their hand plus that red card, so they're simply going to pass and choose not to play a development card. We'll go ahead and move over to the construction phase. Let's do the construction for our red player since they picked the card. Instead of playing 2 cards, they're going to draw a card, and then they're going to discard a card to get a discount on the card that they actually do want to play. And I think the card I am going to discard, the new one actually looks pretty darn good. Actually, it looks very, very good. I am going to keep that one. We'll get rid of this card right here. We'll go into the discard pile to give us a 3 million credit discount on the card we're going to put into play. Because we can always discard a card at any time to gain 3 million credits. And then we are going to put the card into play, Convoy from Europe. Now remember, these red cards are pretty much one-time use cards, which will give us a nice one-time bonus. But they do have these down arrows, which allow us to feed into other cards, and that's very important. That's part of the strategy the red player actually has going right now. If you play the game before, you probably know what card I actually have in my hand and the card I'm working towards right now. So this card would normally cost us 14 million credits. It's allow us to draw a card, and we're going to be allowed to flip an ocean tile. So let's pay for the card first. So let's spend the 14 million credits right now. And then we will draw a card. Not bad. Do I have any of those cards? I do have one of them. That may be something to consider, but I just unconsidered because I need money. So let's discard that right now to gain 3 million credits. And now we get to flip an ocean tile over. So we're going to flip an ocean tile. And now remember, anytime we see resources that are not in a red banner, that's just going to be a gain of 1 of that resource. So we gain 1 million space bucks. We will gain 1 plant, and then the terraforming rating is going to go up 1 because we managed to flip over an ocean. The blue player for their turn doesn't want to do construction, and they're kind of falling into the trap of one of the things you definitely don't want to do when you're playing games like this, which is hoarding all your cards because you're just trying to get a strategy going. It's a bad way to play the game. And again, I'm trying to show you multiple ways to play the game because the blue player has one really amazing card in that they're trying to get set up for. The problem is if you spend too much time trying to get set up for that card, nothing may ever happen for you. You may eventually lose the game. But that's enough of that. Let's go to the end round and let's see if we have too many cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We do not. I know the red player definitely doesn't because they've been running a very thin hand. Because they've been burning through the cards and burning through resources, because that's a good way to play the game. So both our players need to pick their cards for the next round. Let's go ahead and figure out what we want to do. Let's see, we have 4, 8 money right there. We don't have a lot of plants. And the red player looks in their hand of cards and they know exactly what they're going to do. It's going to be a kind of a slash and burn on their own hand of cards, but that's exactly what they want to do. It's time for both our players to pick their actions for this phase, and both our players are going to pick their action cards. Red will pick their action card, and then the blue player is going to pick their action card. And then we will go ahead and take back the old action cards for both our players, and then we will go ahead and reveal the action cards that we are going to do for both our players. So the red player is going to do a development phase. And for the development phase, they are going to put into play the biothermal power. Now, biothermal power normally costs 18 million credits. Since we did develop action, it's only going to cost us 15 million credits. Well, we are currently 7 million credits short. Well, how do we fix that problem? We fix that problem by discarding 3 cards. Discarding 3 cards is going to give us 9 million credits. So just to show you how the math works, very easy. We'll gain the 9 million credits for discarding those 3 cards. Remember, you can discard a card at any time you want. As long as you do it, you gain the 3 million credits. So now we just need to put biothermal power into play. Now, biothermal power is only going to cost us 15 million credits because we played the develop action. So we will discard 10, 14, and 1 more makes 15 million credits. And biothermal is now in play for us. We will raise our heat generation production by 1 point. And then we have another lightning card. Do we have any other cards reference lightning? We do not. So that is it for that player. Now we get to go over to the blue player. Do they want to do a develop action? They do not. They are going to do the construction action. But first, let me finish the rest of the biothermal power because I forgot the lightning bolt part of it. Let me not forget that. It says gain a forest victory point and raise the oxygen level 1 step. So forest victory is going to be 1 victory point for us. That's 1 victory point at the end of the game. The nice thing about building forests is it does give you 1 point of oxygen. It's also going to give you 1 on the terraforming rating. So now we are up to 7 on the terraforming rating. We are taking lead on the terraforming rating For the red player, we're ahead in victory points, we're ahead in terraforming rating. Now let's go over to the blue player officially, who is not going to do a develop, they are going to do a construction. Now since they play the construction, they get the nice bonus so they get to draw a card before or after, or play 2 blue or red cards. We are going to take the card because we need to reduce the cost of a very, very expensive card. I'm not even going to look at this card. I'm not even going to torture myself. Well, I probably should look at it because that's probably the smart strategy to do so. So let's go look at that card and we can see that, yeah, let's not torture ourselves right here, right now. So we are going to play this card right now. That's the card we intend to play, which is the Giant Asteroid. Giant Asteroid costs 36 million credits. You see that we have a huge deficit on credits right now because we currently only have, well, let's make this really easy to see. We have currently 7 million space bucks. That's about all we have right now. But we have options and we also have discounts, because remember, anytime we play a card that costs more than or 20 or more million credits, cost goes down by 4. This now costs us only 32 million credits. We also see that it has a symbol right here. Remember, anytime we set a symbol, our cost doesn't go down by another 6. So we are now down to 26 million credits that it costs us to put this card into play. We have lots of cards in our hand right now that we can discard to cover the cost of these cards. So let's go ahead and start discarding cards. So there's 3 million credits. Remember, we're trying to get to 6. There's 6, there is 9, there is 12, there is 15, there is 18, and which one was it? There is 21 million credits right there. There's another 5 more for a total of 26 million credits. We now have this Giant Asteroid in play, and we still have 2 cards left in our hand. The Giant Asteroid says that when we do this, we're going to raise the temperature by 2 steps. 1, 2, remember, anytime you raise a temperature or an oxygen level, you're going to increase your terraforming rating by those many levels. So since we raise it 2, we are going to go up 2 on the terraforming level, meaning that we are now matching the red player. And the next thing we're going to do is we are also going to flip 2 ocean tiles. Now remember, when you flip an ocean tile, you are also going to raise a terraforming rating. So while this may have been an expensive card to put into play, it was actually fantastic for us because we're going to gain some resources. So the first ocean we are going to flip is going to give us a card. Always a good thing to get. And we're going to get 1 million credits. So that's actually not too bad for us. And the next ocean we are going to flip is going to give us 4 million credits. Well, let's just take a 5 and make the math a little bit easier for us in the future. Since we flipped over 2 oceans, that means our terraforming rating is going to go from 2, or go up 2 more. We're going to go from 7 to 9. So while that looked like an extreme action to put that card into play, it actually behooved us to do that. We still have some cards left to play, even though they are really expensive cards. But remember, we have that nice bonus, so we can actually get these cards into play. That was it for our construction phase for this player. That is it for all of our players, because the other player does not want to do a construction, simply because, well, hold on. Tempting. Almost could do that, but no, we're not. We're not going to do a construction phase, so that is it for both of our players. Obviously, neither one of our players has more than 10 cards in their hand, so nobody needs to discard. We just need to figure out exactly what we are going to do for our next action for both of our players. Well, I know what the red player wants to do. I know what the blue player wants to do. So let's go ahead and do exactly what they want to do. So we'll take the cards back for both of our players. We will go ahead and reveal, and we will see that we are doing production and we are doing research. So production will go first because we always have to go in order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the phases. Since the blue player picked production, they are going to go ahead and do production first. So the amount of income they're going to get is their current terraforming rating, and since they play the production card, they get the bonus of 4 million credits. So we're going to get 9 plus 4 is 13. Which is not too terrible, meaning that we are basically back up to 20 million credits all over again. We're not going to get any cards, but we are going to gain heat. So let's go ahead and gain heat. We'll gain 4. I'll just get rid of the 1 and replace it with a 5, making it nice and easy. And then we will gain 1 plant. Now we get to go over to the red players, also gets their income. They have an income of 6, plus their terraform rating of 7 is a total of 13 to their income. Putting them back at 15, we have 1 heat production. We have no plant production, we have no other production, so that's the production for both our players. So now we go to the research. Let's do the research for the red player first. Remember, we get to keep 1 extra card, and since we play the research card, we're going to draw 5, and we are going to keep 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and let's do 5 right there. So look at the hand of cards, and we need a discard. Let's see here. Well, this card can't even be played yet, so that's an easy one to get rid of. I don't need that. I do need that. So we will get rid of those 2. We will keep these 3 cards, which will stay in our hand, and these 2 cards will go in the discard pile. Over to the blue player, they only get to draw 2 cards. Let's be fancy, draw 1 from each pile. We only get to keep 1 card. So this one is going to help us with our financial problems quite a bit, and would cost us a lot less, so I'm actually liking keeping that card. We will discard that card, and that is it for this round. We'll go to the cleanup phase. Nobody has more than 10 cards. Don't need to worry about it. Let's reset our tokens, and you'll notice I'm starting to speed things up just a little bit here to show you exactly how the rounds actually play. So let's start doing this much, much quicker. And let's figure out exactly what each one of our players want to do for this turn. So this is going to be the final round for this sample game. So let's go ahead and do this final round very, very quickly. The red player is going to pick that action card, and then the blue player is going to pick... Actually, I think we are going to pick this card, and I think red actually wants to do something different. Yes, they definitely want to do something different. Let us actually do this. Both of our players have played the cards now. Let's pull back the old cards for both of our players here, and then let's go ahead and reveal. We're going to do a develop. So we'll do develop first for the blue player. They're going to look at their hands of cards, and we are going to develop the commercial districts. Now, the commercial districts will normally be extremely expensive for us, but remember, the cost is going to go down by 4 million credits due to the corporation backing us. So that's actually only going to cost us 21 million credits. We don't quite have 21 million credits, so that means we do have to discard the card normally to pay the cost. But we don't, because since we played develop as our action, the cost is going to go down by 3 million credits. So now this is actually only going to cost us 17 million credits, which we can afford to do. So 10, 5, and 17, we put the commercial district into play. And since that number or that resource is in the orange box, that means that is going to be production, giving us 4 million credits added to our production. So we actually are starting to get a nice engine of income going. And with our higher terraforming rate, this is actually looking pretty darn good for us. Red player does not want to do any develops, but the red player does want to do a construction. They'll look at their hands, and they are going to construct this red card right here. Now, normally this would cost us 5 million credits to pay this card. Since it has this symbol, which represents Earth, and all Earth cards go down by 3 million credits to our cost, this card is only going to cost us 2 million credits, which we can very easily afford the 2 million credits. What that's going to do is it's going to raise our terraforming rating by 2 points all the way up to 9. Unfortunately, we are going to lose 2 victory points at the end of the game, but I think the gain terraforming rating very easily balances out, especially since this early in the game, gaining extra terraforming rating is extra income, which is very, very good for us. And not only that, that sets us up for the next round for a card that we definitely want to get into play. And I'm sure most of you already know what it is, and since this is the final round, I'm actually going to show for you. We're building up for getting Crater into play, which requires 3 down arrows to get into play. We have our 3 down arrows, which means that we are going to start flipping some more ocean tiles. So that's part of our long-term strategy for the red player. The blue player does not want to put any constructions into play, basically because the only construction they have costs 7 million credits. While they could afford to do it, that also require them to get rid of these 2 cards, which we definitely do not want to get rid of. So they're not going to do a construction. That is going to end their turn, and that's also going to add an end to the sample gameplay video. If you have any comments or questions, make sure you leave them down in the YouTube comments down below. I will definitely get to them as quickly as I can. You can also feel free to email me at off-the-shelf board game reviews. That's otsbgr@gmail.com. I'll be sure to answer your email as quickly as I can. If you enjoy this content and you want to help support the channel, think about supporting the channel over on Patreon. Just $1 in the tip jar over on Patreon can help me cover my costs and help keep the channel going strong. Not only that, being a supporter over on Patreon allows you to see some of the videos that are only available to Patreon subscribers. For example, for Ares Expedition, I have a complete solo game, teaching how to play the solo game and playing for a complete, not just a partial, but a complete solo playthrough is available only to Patreon backers. If you want to check out the video, just costs you $1 over on Patreon at patreon.com/OTSBGR. If you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed this video series, click that like button, click that subscribe button. As always, thanks for watching.